Dear Lizzie, it's nearly 6 months now since I saw you. How I long for you and the children. God bless you all. I love you more than ever. It was almost 3 months into Battle of Passchendaele when Private John William Mudd sat down in Belgium to write to his wife on 22nd October 1917. John, also known as Jack, had married Elizabeth in 1908 and lived in Bow, London with their 3 children, Mary, John, and Anne. He earned a living as a butter blender, but like many men of his generation, the First World War disrupted his life at home. In 1917, he found himself serving with the London Regiment, first with the 7th Battalion and then 4th City of London. Out here, dear, we're all pals. What one hasn't got, the other has. We try to share each other's troubles, get each other out of danger. You wouldn't believe the humanity between men out here. He wrote to Elizabeth about life at war and the friendships formed in the difficult, dangerous circumstances he and his fellow soldiers found themselves in. He himself had been in hospital but said that nearly all the boys from the 7th that came out with me have gone under poor fellows. He described Shorty, a friend who would tell him of a girl he loved called Hilda. Shorty wanted to marry Hilda and said he wanted to take her to meet the Mudds when he got home to England. But John told his wife Shorty would not see his beloved Hilda again. He had been killed, and as far as John knew, he did not have a grave and lies somewhere in the open. We are expecting to go up again in 2 or 3 days, so dearest, pray hard for me. Well, darling, I don't think I can say any more at present. Good night, love. God bless you and my children, and may he soon send me back to those I love as the wish of your faithful husband, Axe Jack. On 26th October, his battalion was in action. He was reported as missing the same day. In an official notification in November, Lizzie was informed that the report he was missing did not necessarily mean he had been killed. The family placed an advert in the Daily Sketch newspaper in January 1918, asking for information about his whereabouts. Many families were in the same position as the Mudds, and many of the soldiers reported as missing during the war were never found. On the 4th of December 1918, Elizabeth finally received official notice that her husband was presumed dead. He is commemorated on the Tyncott Memorial in Belgium, alongside 35,000 officers and men whose graves are not known. In the 1990s, their granddaughter wrote to IWM and revealed what had happened to Elizabeth after the war. She remarried to a man who had been wounded in the war and had a very happy life. But she always kept Jack's final letter. It even survived a direct hit from a Second World War bomb on her home in Bow. Many touching personal stories are vividly brought to life through letters exchanged during the First World War. The correspondence between Private William Martin and his fiancée Emily Chittix reveals one of the most heartbreaking of all of these stories. Emily wrote this letter to Will before she had heard the devastating news that he had been killed in action.
My dearest Will, I feel I must write you again, dear, although there is not much news to tell you. I wonder how you are getting on. I shall be so relieved to get a letter from you. I can't help feeling a bit anxious, dear. I know how you must have felt, darling, when you did not get my letters for so long. Of course I know, dear, you will write as soon as ever you can, but the time seems so dull and weary without any news of you. If only this war was over, dear, and we were together again. It will be one day, I suppose. Don't think, dear, I am worrying unnecessarily about you, because I know God can take care of you wherever you are, and if it's His will, darling, He will. So are you to come back to me. That's how I feel about it, dear. If we only put our trust in Him, I am sure He will. I wonder how your cousins are getting on, dear. We are feeling very anxious about George, as no news has come from him yet. We can't understand why his wife doesn't write. How are your hands now, dear? Mine are very sore, so chapped, and my left hand has got several chilblains on it, and they do irritate. I could scratch it to bits. Have you been receiving the books I have sent you, dear? I am very pleased to say, dear, I am keeping very well indeed, and I trust you are the same. There has been a bit of a fuss over Arthur this week. He has been trying to get in the army unbeknown to his parents, but Mrs. T thought his parents ought to be informed about it. So she wrote and told them about him, and he had to go home in hot haste last night. I guess he got in a fine row, but he won't say today. He is as miserable as anything. Really, Will, I never saw such a boy as he is. I am afraid he is going to the bad. I don't know if Mrs. T will keep him on or not. He says he has to join up in a fortnight, but as he is under age, I suppose his parents could stop him. I don't know whether they will or not. For my part, I hope he does go. He will be a jolly good riddance, for there is nothing but rows and deceitfulness going on where he is. Well, darling, I don't know much more to say now, so we'll close with fondest love and kisses from your loving little girl. Emily. P.S. Cheer up, darling, and don't worry about me. I am quite all right, only anxious to get your letters. There is good news in the papers. Love from Mum and Dad,